The hurricane make we in a misery. We are sleep on the floor, answer bite we. We can't get no more trash. We still.
Everybody go down on the footpath. Let's go and run it down the island.
And it's been here for almost 2 weeks. And with things like these, things can break out. People can get sick for passing by and inhaling this. In a crisis like this, we're supposed to be able to get garbage trucks. Money are running out of the country. Money is being donated in different areas.
Jamaica is still trying to breathe after the most expensive disaster in its modern history. Hurricane Melissa didn't just hit the island, it crushed it. Entire towns drowned in minutes. Families lost homes, belongings, and everything they worked for. And now the World Bank has confirmed what many feared. The destruction is far worse than anyone imagined. The final estimate? A staggering $8.8 billion in damage. That's nearly half of Jamaica's entire economy wiped out in a single strike. This number alone stunned global agencies. But the truth behind it is even more unsettling. Because the figure only covers physical losses. What can be counted, photographed, measured. It doesn't include the economic collapse now spreading through communities already living on the edge. It doesn't count lost jobs, broken businesses, or families forced into poverty overnight. Even government officials admit that the real financial shock hasn't shown itself yet. But what's emerging from early reports raises uncomfortable questions, and Jamaicans everywhere want answers. How did things spiral so quickly? Why were so many unprepared, and could more have been done? The story gets darker the deeper you go, and the next detail will hit even harder. When the World Bank stepped to the podium and announced the updated damage estimate, the room fell silent. $8.8 billion. The kind of number you expect from a war zone, not a Caribbean island still trying to rebuild from past storms. Officials confirmed it represents 41% of Jamaica's 2024 GDP. A financial earthquake so large that even seasoned economists were caught off guard. And yet they warned the public not to get comfortable with that number. It's only physical damage. Broken buildings, shattered infrastructure, destroyed farms. The hidden impact, the economic aftershock, will almost certainly be worse. Businesses that may never reopen. Workers with no jobs to return to. Families whose savings vanished overnight. Entire communities now relying on aid, unsure how long it will last. More troubling is the quiet debate happening behind closed doors. Some experts believe the government already knew the losses would be catastrophic, but held back the worst projections until assessments were undeniable. Whether true or not, trust is shaken. Jamaicans feel the emotional weight of a crisis still expanding. The storm hit in hours, but the consequences will stretch for years. And what came next revealed an even harsher truth. The storm's worst brutality unfolded in 3 parishes: St. James, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. Together, they accounted for $5.5 billion in damage, a level of destruction no region in Jamaica has ever experienced. Roads vanished under swirling brown water. Cars floated like toys. Entire communities stood trapped on rooftops, waving frantically for help as rising floods swallowed everything beneath them. Farmers watched helplessly as fields turned into lakes. Children clung to parents as homes collapsed under the pressure of wind and water. In St. Elizabeth, villages were cut off for days. Residents insisted that warnings came too late, that evacuation orders should have been stronger, clearer, faster. In Westmoreland, people reported calling emergency lines for hours with no response. Some communities say they survived only because neighbors formed rescue chains when nobody else could reach them. Officials argue they did everything possible with the time they had. But many Jamaicans aren't convinced. They believe the Southwest was left too exposed, too vulnerable, too forgotten. And as anger grows, so do demands for accountability. Because while these parishes fought to survive, a different kind of tragedy was unfolding across the island, and its impact would break hearts nationwide. The most painful numbers came when officials assessed Jamaica's homes. More than 100,000 houses damaged and/or destroyed. Nearly 1 million people affected. residential losses alone reached $3.7 billion, the largest and most devastating category of all. And behind every number is a story too heavy to ignore. Parents holding their children close as water rushed through living rooms. Elderly residents rescued through windows because doors wouldn't open. Families fleeing with only a school bag, a pillow, or a single suitcase. Shelters filled with babies crying, seniors confused, and mothers praying for strength. Many lost photographs, heirlooms, certificates, items that can't be replaced by any relief fund. Some say they begged for evacuation support hours before the storm hit, but help never came. Others claim the danger was downplayed until it was too late to escape. Whether miscommunication, miscalculation, or pure force of nature, the result is the same: shattered lives. Homes that took decades to build were destroyed in minutes. And rebuilding them will not be quick, cheap, or simple. But even as families mourn their losses, another crisis was quietly growing, one that threatens Jamaica's economy at its core. And it would strike where the country is most vulnerable. While families were fighting to survive, Jamaica's commercial backbone was collapsing. Damage to non-residential buildings reached $1.8 billion, hitting businesses, schools, government offices, and the tourism sector. Factories filled with mud, hotel lobbies torn open by violent winds. Shops gutted, restaurants ruined, classrooms left unrecognizable. Some large hotels will rebuild, but many small businesses, the bar on the corner, the community grocery, the family-owned guest house, may be gone forever. Owners walked into their ruined spaces and cried, not just for their buildings, but for the workers who depended on them. Tourism, Jamaica's lifeline, took a massive blow. A single lost season can cripple entire communities. Some resort workers now have no jobs, no timelines, no certainty. Public buildings didn't fare better. Police stations flooded, clinics lost equipment, community centers collapsed. Several schools won't reopen anytime soon. And beneath all this destruction is a growing frustration. Many business owners say government relief is too slow, too limited, or too tangled in bureaucracy. They feel abandoned at a time when every hour matters. But even this wasn't the worst discovery, because the storm didn't just break buildings, it broke what keeps the island running. And that breakdown changed everything. Hurricane Melissa didn't just damage Jamaica's infrastructure, it crippled it. With $2.9 billion in losses, the systems the island depends on every single day were left in shambles. Bridges collapsed, leaving ambulances stranded. Highways cracked open and disappeared beneath landslides. Entire communities were cut off, unable to receive food, water, or medical supplies. Power lines snapped like twigs. Entire parishes went dark for days. Water systems failed, forcing families to walk miles with empty bottles hoping for relief trucks that often never made it through. Cellular towers fell, cutting communication at the exact moment people needed it most. Rescue teams say delays weren't just caused by the storm, but by weaknesses that existed long before Melissa formed. Old drainage systems, fragile roads, bridges never reinforced for storms this size. Some experts believe Jamaica underestimated how vulnerable its infrastructure had become. Others argue leaders ignored repeated warnings. No matter the truth, the result was catastrophic. Infrastructure is more than concrete, it's survival. And Melissa exposed cracks that may have been years in the making. But while roads can be rebuilt, something even more fragile was breaking quietly in the background. And it carried consequences that will echo for years. As the country focused on homes and roads, another disaster unfolded almost unnoticed. Agriculture, the backbone of many rural communities, suffered $389 million in losses. Fields that once produced food for thousands now look like swamps of mud and broken stems. Sugarcane flattened, yam fields drowned, banana crops wiped out, livestock swept away by unexpected flood surges. Fishermen found their boats smashed against rocks, tools lost, nets torn beyond repair. For farmers, this isn't just business, it's survival. Many already living paycheck to paycheck now face a year with no income at all. Entire communities depend on these crops. Without them, food prices will rise, shortages may spread, and poverty will tighten its grip. Agricultural experts warn that Jamaica relies too heavily on flood-prone land for some of its most important crops. Many farmers agree, but say they have nowhere else to go. They plant in dangerous areas because those lands are all they can access. And now Melissa has exposed a truth many tried to ignore. Jamaica's food system is more fragile than anyone admitted. But even as crops rot and boats sink, another storm, this time a political one, was forming. And it centered on the country's leader. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced the frightening scale of the disaster. Nearly 900,000 people affected, over 100,000 homes damaged, and billions needed for recovery. He emphasized fiscal discipline, transparency, and responsible spending, assuring the public that every dollar will be used wisely. Many praised his calm, measured response, but others are not convinced. Some believe evacuations should have started earlier. Some say shelters opened too late. Others insist critical warnings were too soft, giving families a false sense of security. Holness toured the worst-hit communities alongside CARICOM leaders and international partners, surveying homes reduced to rubble. He pledged support. He promised accountability. But emotions are high, patience is thin, and tension is growing. Many Jamaicans want faster action and clearer timelines. They want answers about preparedness, coordination, and communication. Holness argues the government acted responsibly and is working non-stop. His critics say not fast enough. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. But one thing is certain, Jamaica is watching closely. And the decisions made now will shape the country for decades. Because after everything Melissa destroyed, one question still hangs in the air. Will Jamaica rise stronger or remain exposed when the next storm comes?